and maybe this has evolved since the last time I asked you the question. So your favorite movie and why?
I don't know if I have a favorite movie, man. I keep going back to the same movie, The Wolf of Wall Street, and I feel like I just always go back to that movie because that movie like got me out of a slump, you know?
Really?
Yeah. It's always been my favorite movie for like a long time because when I think of that movie, I think of like where I was. I was just finished being homeless, and I was like sleeping in front of my old good friend of mine. We're not really good friends anymore, but back then, anyways, I was sleeping in front of his. He had a studio apartment because he and his girlfriend had just broke up, so he needed help with paying the overhead of the apartment. And I was like sleeping on a flat air mattress right in front of his bed, and we had a little DVD player, we had a little TV. And I had the DVD for The Wolf of Wall Street. I had the DVD. It wasn't even like streaming back then. It was just a DVD. And I was just like watching the DVD on repeat every single day. And that's how the name Wolf of Fitness came out. So I feel like that movie will always have a spot dear to me because it's like it started. Like I wouldn't be here today as the Wolf of Fitness or Per Fitness or anything that I'm known for if it wasn't for like this movie constantly playing and subliminal messages for like, I also want to be like this guy who was poor. I always say without all the drugs and women and stuff like that.
Right.
But if I'm being completely honest, and I'll give you an inside bite, I lived the Vegas life for a bit where it felt like the Wolf of Fitness / Wolf of Wall Street.
Right.
Like Vegas style.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't come hang out with you.
Welcome to the On the Edge podcast with your host, Scott Groves.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's Scott Groves with the On the Edge podcast. I can already tell this is going to be a not safe for work episode. So if you got the kids in the car, come back to this at a later date because I'm here with my old friend, Mike Alvarez. I'm drinking a beer. He's just having a cigar. Thanks for bringing the Cohibas, by the way. I appreciate that. Awesome.
Always.
And Mike and I met several years ago, like the last time I tried to get in shape. And he is the CEO of Per Fitness, like Perfect Fitness, has a life and consulting business, coaching. And what I tell people about Mike when they're looking for like a fitness guru is I'm like, hey man, if you want the $100 or a couple $100 a month program where somebody is going to send you like an app workout and tell you to track your food on MyFitnessPal, Mike is not your guy.
Right.
If you're the person who's like, oh, I'm going to drop a serious amount, like thousands of dollars a month to get in the best shape of my life, and I'm going to have an accountability coach where I have to text him every single piece of food that goes in my mouth, and then we're going to do Friday workouts together, and then we're going to do Sunday workouts together, and then we're going to do life coaching on Wednesday, and then we're going to dive into how your business is affecting your health. Like, if you're that guy, Mike's your dude. And I remember the last time you were here, like 4 years ago when we first started this podcast, you said, oh yeah, I have like this $20,000 package where sometimes I have to go live with the guy for 2 weeks, clean out his pantry for him, see how he wakes up, go out to eat with him, go out to restaurants with him, go to his business meetings with him, because they can't even control like the food they're consuming and finding time in their day for exercise. So I've tried to refer you to a few people, but they weren't ready to jump on that kind of financial commitment. All right, so catch us up. Like, you're a new father. You've got this show, CEO Physique, coming out. You're looking swole, bro. Like, I know you're not in like cutting stage, but you look big. Like last time I saw you were fit, but you got big over the last couple of years. So
I don't.
Yeah, reload. So just catch me up on everything that's been going well for you, man, and what's going on in your life.
Well, Scott, first I want to just say, man, thank you for having me. You know, you're a rock star. I love everything you do. I'm so proud of you for how far you've taken On the Edge.
Thanks, man.
It's dope. So for me, look, man, ultimately, 4 years ago, I was still a technician in my business, right? So I was still meeting with clients, being the accountability coach, being the trainer. I don't know if anybody's ever read the book, The E-Myth.
Yeah.
Or The E-Myth Revisited.
Yeah.
Right? So I've spent the last 4 years really completely stepping away from any technical part of my business. So you actually can't hire to work with me one-on-one. You have to hire the company, right? And I have life coaches in the business. I have nutritionists in the business. I have everyone doing everything that I used to do being done by team members of the company, right? So it's not as expensive, but it's a lot easier to manage and scale, because back then the problem that I was facing was that a lot of people wanted to work with me, but the level of service that I was providing was always constantly having me hit that glass ceiling, right? Where I could only take on so many clients, and then ultimately you're doing really well, but you're always kind of capping what you're capable of financially. So that's been the last 4 years. In 2022, I moved to Mexico. I don't know if you knew about that. Did you know that?
I saw some Instagram stories. I knew you were there a lot, but I didn't know you actually moved to Mexico. Was this like me? You were like, I got to get out of California during the COVID craziness, or
well, that's why I moved to Vegas.
Okay,
I moved to Vegas because of that.
Right,
but Mexico was for me. So, I keep my life super private. And it's interesting because I'm always on social media, but I control the narrative. So like, you never really know what's going on in my life. You kind of
Right.
get like snippets here, a few things, close friends, a few things on my story. But in 2022, I was just, I did some magic mushrooms, right? And I was like questioning my motive. I started entrepreneurship at a very young age, around 14, 15 years old, right? How old is your son, by the way?
I've got a 6-year-old daughter, an 8-year-old son, and a 22-year-old son who's also going that route of entrepreneurship. So,
Wow, I didn't even know you had a 22-year-old.
yeah, neither did I until he was 15.
No way.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Met him for the first time 7 years ago.
What was that like?
Well, it's really weird when your wife is pregnant with your second kid, and then you get a package in the mail from the county of Los Angeles saying like, "Hey, you have a kid in New York. We'd like you to come in for child support and a DNA test." I was like, "What the fuck?" So imagine walking into your pregnant wife to be like, "Hey, honey, we got something we got to talk about." And she was a rock star about it. She was a champ. My son Jonathan, like in the I don't know, spectrum of 15-year-olds you can inherit, he's a rock star. He's in college full time. He works full time. He's a great kid. He's actually flying out here tomorrow so we can go to Hawaii for a week together. He's a great dude.
Jonathan.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
man.
And
Wow.
you know what's so funny? We were this whole nature versus nurture thing, right? It's like, don't worry, parents, if you feel like you're fucking up, because nature's going to take care of 90% of it. I had never met him. I didn't know he existed. He didn't know I existed. We were walking around New York when I first met him, and I noticed like he's dragging his feet, right? I'm like, "Hey, buddy, do you wear out the back of your shoes?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, all the time. My mom's always yelling at me to pick up my feet." He's like, "I wear out tennis shoes on like the back third of it so fast." And I'm like, "That's exactly what I did as a teenager. I didn't fix that until I went to the Army and they taught us to like run appropriately on the front and the balls of our feet." And then he just said so many things that day where I was like, "Oh, he's me." Like I haven't even been around for 15 years. We didn't even know about each other, but nature took care of a lot of it.
Nature took care of a lot of it.
Yeah.
That is profound. That's amazing.
Yeah. So anyway, back to your entrepreneurship and your magic mushrooms.
Right. Let's just jump around all over the podcast. I love it. So I did some magic mushrooms here in Vegas. I was living in Spanish Trails, and I had a beautiful house there. And I was single guy, right? And I don't know, Vegas, single guy. I'm sure you've heard stories.
Yeah, a lot of things going on.
Right, I'm not going to go into details.
Right.
I'm not that transparent. Right. But ultimately, one day I was on the balcony overlooking the golf course. And I was like looking at nature and this, magic mushrooms and looking at the sky and stuff. And I was like, why do I need a 6-bedroom house and a 6-figure car? And I'm not happy, right? And I got it in me to want to sell everything and move to Mexico and like go live on a beach, ride a bike. And that's what I did for about a year.
So I remember seeing these pictures of you and some lady friends in Mexico, and I just, it's you. Like, aren't you half Cuban, half black, something, half Mexican? Afro-Cuban, yeah. And so I saw you, and I'm like, oh, dude, he's just in his element, bro. Like, what do they call it? Oh, linen suit and like gold watch and just looking yoked and tan. And I'm like, dude, this looks like an episode of like Paradise Valley or whatever that show was where they're all like cheating on each other. And I'm like, oh, dude, this guy's gonna be an extra in a reality show here pretty soon. He's going to be like bad guy number 3 in a new Miami Vice TV show.
Right.
But did you find yourself in Mexico, or did you find yourself a girl, or what'd you find?
I brought a girl with me from Vegas, kind of again on and off. But I did find myself. In Mexico, I learned a lot about, first of all, I learned that a lot of the hard work that I was doing, I think when you're an entrepreneur, you think that doing more, that kind of like the no sleep, the hustle mentality, that actually moves the needle forward on your business or your projects, right? And it's kind of like that, again, that technician mindset where you have to be responsible for everything. So moving to Mexico really forced me to evolve as a business owner, where I was in Mexico. So like if the business was going to succeed, it needed to succeed by leadership and delegation and hiring the right people and putting the right systems into place. So that was really important for my business, I believe. But for me, spiritually, Mexico also like allowed me to slow down. Like life is just so much slower compared to like Miami, LA, Vegas, right? So like I'm riding my bike, I'm smoking cigars and whiskey every evening. I met a good friend, a few good people. Justin, who I'll give a shout out to, works for the government. Michael and Victoria. Michael sold a huge ghost gym franchise business out of Canada, and then he opened up, I think, a huge cleaning business. These are all very, high net worth individuals. So I moved into a very nice area of Mexico. I think you call it like the Bel Air of Mexico is where I used to live. Met another guy named there, Alex. So I like also made time to like hang out with people, right? Which I didn't do that before, right? It was just like work, and then hang out with women, but I didn't really hang out with guys. And I feel like in Mexico, I made some really good guy friends.
Yeah.
And I dedicated time to like just like sitting by the pool, smoking a cigar, talking, getting to know each other. And that was really healing for me, you know, as a person. So that was what happened there. But then,
by the way, I just want to know, how scary is that when you decide to be like, I've been the guy. I've been the face of the business. I'm the guy that drives across town to sell the dude by doing the first workout with him. I'm the guy who like does the nutrition plan and the account. Like, you're the guy, right? And then all of a sudden you go like, no, I'm going to trust some other guys. And not only am I going to trust some other guys, I'm going to trust some other guys from 1,000 miles away. Like, were you terrified, or was there enough of a hangover from the mushrooms that you're like, hey, bro, it's all going to be good. It's chill. I'm happy. Like,
it was actually, I think it might have been the hangover from the mushrooms, man. Because I was just like, this is what I'm going to do. But also, Scott, you've known me now for about 5
years. Yeah.
And we've had a few conversations. We talk about my mom a lot, right? Remember like what my mom did? And I think, you know, when we go deeper, people ask me like why my life constantly evolves and changes so fast, right? Like you have so many things going on and you're not scared or anything. You just go after it, right? And I think that root comes from the fact that my mom, you know, she got on a raft and came to this country with like no social media, no podcast, on a raft with
no money,
didn't know the language, no resources, no skills. So it's like, what am I scared of, right? Like, so I think that always allows me to make decisions that most people would not make because they have that fear of failure. Where for me, it's like, well, you know, if I'm not dead, I have the skills, or I'll acquire the skills to recover, right? Because that's really all it is. It's just like recovery. So
can you imagine complaining to your mom and she'd be like, listen, bitch, you didn't paddle over here on a used tire. Like it would be impossible for you to complain, right? Like there's nothing you can't do, period, based on what she did to get you here.
Period. And the great thing about my mom is she's never used that consciously. She's never said, oh, I did this, right? So why? But then again, I've never complained. So maybe that's
right.
So that's probably why it's never happened, right?
Yeah. Hey, this quick interruption is brought to you by me, Scott Groves, the host of the On the Edge podcast. This podcast is brought to you by me. I'm a loan officer who can help you with a mortgage in all 50 states across the United States. I also coach loan officers. So if you are a home buyer who's looking to get a mortgage, if you're a realtor who's looking to partner with an awesome loan officer, or if you're a loan officer looking for coaching, get in touch with me. It's those sources of revenue that allow us to produce this podcast and get out a new episode to you every week for the last couple of years. So if you're looking for a mortgage, if you're looking for a mortgage lender to partner with, or you're looking for a mortgage coach, I'm your guy. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming. Do you think there's something, I mean, you know, there's this term that gets thrown around and then certain people dislike this term, but this idea of like model minority, right? And I don't know what the possible racist connotation is of model minority, because I know some people get really bothered by that term, but it's like, rename it whatever you want. There is some type of innate entrepreneurial hustle in like first and second generations Americans, like almost like they have something to prove, or they owe something to their parents, or they owe something to their country. I was meeting with a guy today. He's first generation Indian. He wouldn't want me to bring up his name, but let's just say I'll tell you after the podcast. He's very wealthy, like very, very wealthy. You would know his name. And it just so happens, dumb luck, we're in this group together with these dads and these other guys. And we started talking about guns and stuff. And he's like, yeah, you know, that's why I moved to Vegas, because like they're more free here. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm in Vegas. So we've been hanging out.
Love that.
And he's first generation Indian, no money, had to go to the army just to be able to pay for college. And he's fucking crushed it. And he's like, I love this country. I love the opportunity. You know, my nephews work even harder than we did. And there's something about that like first or second generation where they've almost got something to prove.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think they have something to prove, right? I think their parents, because I also know a guy who's Indian, who's also super wealthy out of Los Angeles, right? And he has a son now. And we talk about this all the time because he's a high profile individual, probably worth 8-9 figures. Like he's just doing really well, right? Kind of like probably similar to the guy that you mentioned. They both happen to be Indian. When you said Vegas, I thought maybe it was gonna be the same guy, but then you said Vegas, and I was like, oh wait, what? Different guy? Okay, interesting. And I was like, because he has a son too, and you know, like he acknowledges that success, what his parents instilled in him as success, is not what he's instilling in his son, because for him, like success, his parents were first generation, right? So for him, it was like he was also first generation. It was like success means make more money, build something. Right, for our family, for like family tree, like for yourself. Whereas like I think second generation, third generation, maybe even with your kids, that pillar of like build something isn't as
Yeah.
important, right?
Right.
It's like maybe with your kids, you're saying something like be happy, be fulfilled, learn some skills, be a good person.
Yeah.
Whereas like, those first generations, like be somebody, become something, build something, right? Do something. That's why we came to this country. So I do believe that's that pressure that we all feel, maybe subconsciously, but we feel it innate.
Yeah.
At least I feel it, right? Like, I retired my grandma in 2021. I don't know. Yeah, I didn't tell you about this.
No.
So one of the biggest things that I did in 2021 was like put my grandma on my payroll. She's been on my payroll since 2021, where like all her bills are covered, right? Everything. So I just, send her money, take care of everything. So she doesn't have to work. Cause she was working. My grandma was a janitor up until 2021. And it hit me, a young guy, but it hit me one day. I was like, how many more cars and houses do I need and flying here? And like, how many more do I need? Like, where boys chase pleasure and happiness.
Yeah.
Men chase honor and discipline and responsibility, right? And it kind of hit me, and I was like, okay, well, I don't like here in Vegas with some girls in a house, and my grandma's working as a janitor. Like that's not just something there's missing, right? So that was like one of the biggest things that I did in 2021 that was really impactful for me. But I think that innate feeling of providing and I always call it like flipping the hourglass from poverty to wealth, that someone in that generation is going to be responsible for it, and it's usually going to be that first or second kind of like model immigrant or whatever we want to call it.
That's wild, man. And I don't want to spoil it, but where else have you grown?
Where else have I grown?
Yeah. Grown up big time, right?
Yeah, with the kids.
Yeah.
Huge. I still haven't. Yeah, Rob knows all about that. I still haven't. So for me, like, you have 3 kids.
Yeah.
And I was raised by a stepfather. You know that?
No.
You're learning so much today.
Yeah, there you go.
You thought you knew me. Yeah. Scott's like, God damn it. So I was raised by a stepfather. And so here's the first thing that I noticed when I decided to do this, right? Because me and this girl's been on and off for about 4 years. And the reason that I was always never on, like fully, because the relationship was great. All the things that are required for a relationship were great. But the one thing that wasn't great was I'm a high value man and you have kids. It's never going to be serious, right? Like that was the foundation of this will always just be a thing, a fun thing, but never a commitment. And then while this actually happened to me in 2023, I was just like, I was asking myself, I do a lot of reflection. I was asking myself, I was like, what really bothers me about her having kids? And when I really thought about it, I was like, the only thing that really bothers me about her having kids is that it's not identified as like a successful thing that a successful man do, right? Like I say all great men smoke cigars.
Right.
Why? Because like Arnold Schwarzenegger smokes cigars, right?
Right.
Michael Jordan smokes cigars.
Yeah.
Right? Like high value man read books, right? Leaders are readers. You don't hear high value man like date single moms. Right? Like it's not like a popular thing. And I was like, well, so the only reason why I don't be with the woman that I love is because I haven't found other men that I can kind of like mirror who are stepfathers. Right? Because if all successful men were stepfathers, I'd be like, great. Sign me right up.
Were you close with your stepfather?
We'll go into that.
Okay.
My stepfather grew me to become the man that I am today. Another thing that you might could know this way better than me is like being a father allows you to relive your childhood. Mm-hmm. How many things have you reflected on, as being a father, like that your kids do? You're like, oh, I remember how my parents handled that when I was a kid. So I've been a stepfather now for a few months, but it's like I get so much of that constantly happening.
Right.
And so it's made me appreciate my stepfather more.
Yeah.
Right? Like way more. Like, whereas like it made me like respect him more, appreciate him more. Don't even talk to the guy, but like just like self-reflection. I'm like, oh God, this is not easy.
Right.
And I know what he was going through as a man, right?
Right.
And I only made it worse sometimes, which is not great. So ultimately I asked myself, I was like, okay, well, if the only reason I'm not with this girl is because there's no one that I can say, oh, that guy's successful, he's a stepfather. And I use that for me because I didn't have the best father figures. So I had to find, and that's where personal training really saved my life. I truly, right? Because I'm a guy who came from the hood with little skills, little resources. Becoming a trainer, I tell this to people who always ask me, oh, should I become a trainer? And I'm like, it's a low income skill. Being a trainer is a low income skill. You don't need a lot of skills to be a trainer. Anyone can be a trainer.
Yeah.
It's a low income skill.
You can get the licensing in like a weekend.
It's a low income skill.
Yeah.
Right. That's just, let's call it what it is. It's a low income skill that usually if you didn't go to college or have the proximity to be a Harvard student or a country club kid, or right, like you could just easily learn to be a trainer, make some quick money as a teenager or as a young adult, right? To pay the bills, you could do pretty decent as a trainer because people want to lose weight and you can make good money, but it's a low income skill. So eventually you're gonna hit a wall if you don't elevate that skill and learn other skills. But for me, you know, my when I was kind of thinking about the whole kid situation, I just told myself, if I don't really care about what other people say about this, I would be with a girl, right? And if other man who I admire had stepkids, I would be with the girl. And when I really realized that, I was like, so why wouldn't I be with the girl? Right. That makes no sense, right? Like, so that, and now that's why I want to talk more about it. Cause I'm like, how many other guys out there who might be doing well in their business, might be doing well in their careers, right? Might really like a girl. There's a lot of single moms out there, right? Cause they made bad mistakes and so forth. Yeah. How many guys
out there? A lot of shitty dads.
A lot of shitty dads. Being a dad is hard.
Yeah.
Right? How many guys out there might be like, man, I really like this girl, but the agenda is high value man, you know, don't believe in monogamy, sleep with as many women as possible. You're high value, you should be with a girl who's a virgin and 21 years old. And I get that whole red pill thing, right? But it's like, if that's what all guys are seeing, there's a lot of single moms out there. I want to like show the other side of that. It's like, you could be driven, in great shape, attractive, well-spoken, successful, and be a great stepfather. If that's the path that you want to take. And that's basically the mission that I gave myself.
That's awesome. I've got a buddy. Hey, I won't use his name because I'm not sure how comfortable he'd feel about me talking about this.
Because you said magic mushrooms and a lot of things in this podcast. Do not take from me.
No. My buddy who's been on this podcast, I didn't even know that his daughter was his stepdaughter, because to him it's just his daughter, and the biological father is complete absentee piece of shit. And I've heard some stories that confirm he's a piece of shit. And he's like, yeah, man, I was gonna adopt my daughter, because, you know, her mom and I had been together for several years, and the courts were like, oh no, you can't adopt her because you guys aren't legally married. And he was like, fuck you, I'll be back in 20 minutes. They went downstairs. He's like, hey, we're getting married. Like this is important to me. I want to be with you the rest of my life. I want to take care of your kid the rest of my life. Like, she's my kid in my mind already. So let's just get married and do it. I'm like, man, that's such a stellar example of like just you stepping up as a dude and deciding you're going to be there forever for her and then be there for the kids. And I was like, that's pretty awesome. So how old are your stepkids?
So I'll answer that quickly. 5 is the little boy. Zeno's 5 years old. Millie is 8. She just turned 9, so we'll say 9. And Mila is 11. I do wish that if you do know anybody, please send me a text. I want to know who out there's a stepfather where the father is still heavily involved in the picture, but is still a piece of shit.
I got one of those too.
That's harder that way.
Yeah.
I would prefer the guy not be involved at all.
Right.
Yeah, I would be like, yeah, dude, it's my kids now.
We're killing it.
Done.
Right.
I'm going to mentor them the way they need to be mentored, because ultimately those kids are always going to love their father.
Yeah.
Like, they don't know, right? The guy lives with his mom. Like, they don't know those details. They just love their dad.
Of course.
Right? But they see him every 2 weeks. So it's like that reprogramming of that paradigm is so much harder when they're constantly going back.
Yeah.
And that makes it difficult. So if you have any advice there, I would gladly take it.
I'll introduce you to somebody, because I've got a buddy who very similar, took on 3 stepkids at very similar, like 6, 9, and we'll call it 12 or whatever. And it was rough, man. It was rough. I'll share this story without, again, using their names. They were over at dad's house, and I don't know, out on the lake or by the pool or something. And the sun burned the top of his feet so bad because he didn't put sunscreen on, that they had to go to the doctors, and then he had to buy like a new pair of sandals because he couldn't wear shoes. His feet were so burned, and get some cream or whatever. So, you know, dad brings 3 kids back to my friend and mom, so stepdad and mom, and gives the stepdad a bill for like 50% of $11 that he spent on sandals and some, you know, lotion for his feet. And he's like, that's your son. You like didn't really take care of him enough to where he didn't sunburn the fucking top of his feet. And you want $6.27 from me? And I was just like, I mean, this is the type of shit he was dealing with, right? So it was very hard for him.
Yeah.
Fast forward like 20 years.
20 years.
20 years, yeah.
Oh, wow. I got to talk to this guy.
Yeah. Fast forward like 20 years. He is asked by his stepdaughter to give her away at the wedding, not her biological dad. And at the wedding, she gets up and gives this amazing speech about thank you to my stepdad, you know, for paying for this wedding. He was there for me when I was going through college. He was there for me when I was, you know, working on this job. You know, you're the man that helped me become the lady I am today. Blah. And then looked at her biological dad and sat down. And he goes, that was worth 20 years of misery just because I know that I did all the right things. Like I kept it cool. I didn't beat the shit out of the other, the biological dad.
I had a moment.
Yeah.
I talked to my mom and she brought me back to real world. But yeah, man, it's hard. It's difficult.
It's really hard.
You know, it's not easy. But you know what? That's what I tell myself. Like, you know, I tell myself, like, well, these kids, no matter what, right? They're kids. Like they might love their dad now, but eventually they will turn 30, 25. They will see two different men.
Right. And
they'll acknowledge it then. And that's I'm playing the long game. That's how I show up every single day. Just
totally. And I love that, man. So I'm glad those Mexico trips with your lovely lady worked out for the long haul.
For the long haul.
So bring me back to Per Fitness. Like, how many people are you managing? Like, what did the handoff look like? Because I got to tell you, and anybody who listens to this podcast for any amount of time knows this, I have effed up the handoff 4 times, right? Where it's like I'm trying to get out of the day-to-day of my business. I think I've brought in the right person. I would say 2 times I brought in the right person and I didn't have the skills to manage the process, and I didn't set the dream and the vision, and so I botched the handoff. 2 times I just got conned and the people were never going to be the right person for the job. Just bad people. They bailed in the middle of the night, whatever. But it's like I'm now on my 5th iteration of this, and I think I picked the right girl, and I think I learned all my lessons, and I think I'm setting the vision correctly, and we have a plan and we have everything in writing. So I think we've done it right this time. But dude, if I mess this one up, I'm gonna put a spoon through my eye.
Well, so the first thing is welcome to the club. I'm on the 5th.
Okay.
I'm not on the 1st, bro.
right. Okay.
You're gonna mess it up a lot.
Right.
And I honestly, you know, Alex Ramosi, you know, I believe what they say. Like that's part of the journey.
Right.
Like, you mess it up till you get it right, and as long as you don't give up, that's what matters. Because when you get it right, you get it right. Mm-hmm. The one thing that I will say though, that's the biggest thing that I've realized about the handoff is systems run the business, people run the systems.
Say that again.
Systems run the business, people run the systems. So you know how you were just sharing with me, like, oh, I gave it to this person, they gave it to this person. I stopped looking at it as people.
So the people run the systems, but the systems are the foundation.
Right. And that's super important. Especially I had to learn that the hard way, because in some industries, like my industry, our churn rate for employment is through the roof.
Why is that?
Because other than sales, right? Personal trainers are 89% turnover.
Whoa, what?
Yeah.
Personal trainers are 89% turnover, like in what, a year, 5 years, 10 years?
Some trainers last like a few months.
Oh, man.
It's insane.
I mean, I guess it makes sense. Like,
it makes sense.
When I was in Pasadena working out at Equinox, they would have, other than this guy Jadaria, who's been there forever, and he's a beast.
Those diamonds in the rough.
Yeah, I mean, he's now head trainer because he just basically outlasted everybody, and he's the only guy I know that would give you a run for your money on fitness. This dude, I just see this guy like strap 2 45-pound plates to his waist and just like knock out.
Just so you know, so many people will give me a run for my fitness. I don't know, people. You know, I was sending this to Rob. I was like, I'm not a fitness guy.
Really?
Right? I acquired a low income skill to survive. But what I'm always really good at was the human relationship. I was really good at making. You hired me as a trainer, but I'm here because we made a good relationship.
Yes, that's true.
What made me great. I wasn't the best trainer. I mean, yes. I mean, I got the accountability, and I will always outwork most people. Great.
Yeah.
But like the mechanics of being a phenomenal trainer and like learning all the anatomy and all that, I understood it, but it wasn't like, I'm sure there's so many more trainers out there who could give me a run for my money, right?
Yeah.
Where I excel at is my ability to authentically make human relationships. And that's why I was able to build the business and I've had our LTVs through the roof in one way or another, right? This is LTV right here.
Right.
You found me on a third party site. We're on a podcast together. Our third interaction together. That's where the skill came in that I kind of like organically had, that I nurtured through being a trainer. It was talking and interacting with human beings, building that up, if that makes sense.
I'm just interested, what part of that, or what portion of that, if you could maybe give it a percentage, do you think comes from like training and learned skills? What percentage of it do you think is just like you as a human being? And what percentage of it do you think is like you're from the hood and you had to learn some street smarts pretty early?
Yeah.
Like,
I think it's a healthy combination of all three. Because, without scaring any of your listeners away, if you believe in numerology to some degree, right? This is where we go into the horoscope and numerology and all that stuff. So
Are you going to start telling me that Mercury's in retrograde or some shit like this?
buckle in, people. Buckle in. Hey, we're in Vegas. They love this stuff.
Oh, totally.
Just for your Vegas listeners. So in numerology, I'm a master number.
Okay. I don't know. I have no idea what any of this shit means.
Sounds really cool though, right?
Yeah, it does sound cool. Your master number.
So I actually have both my numbers are the most rare numbers in the numerology chart. So when you know how one time you introduce me, you're like, I don't know how to introduce this guy. He's just like the interesting guy on the planet.
Yeah.
Is he a trainer? But why is he smoking cigars?
Right.
Remember that? But basically, the master number that I was born under, is also known as the master teacher, the master communicator. So that's what allowed me to be a great trainer, which is like my ability to teach whatever it was that I was trying to teach. It was not that I knew the best way to do a squat. It's that when I said do the squat, you wanted to do the squat.
Right.
It's not that I was like, oh, send me food photos. I'm sure trainers send food photos. But when I said send food photos, you felt like you should send food photos.
Right.
It was like this like unspoken kind of thing that people wanted to like gravitate towards, like to give me the things that I was trying to teach for them to do. Like they were receptive to the learning of the fitness. But I think also that might have come from, the environment that I also grew up in, where like I had a, how do you avoid, I'll never forget, I was at the mall and this guy, was with like his group of guys, and back then one of them had a gun, and they were like trying to fight at me, and just you're talking your way out of a lot of things. You're like dealing with like high pressure situations in the hood to avoid fights, to avoid getting in trouble. So I think a combination of all of that, who I am, my experiences growing up, I think it all led me to what I'm the most passionate about now, which is like helping people, teaching people about life, business, consulting, relationships, like just talking to people. And I know that fitness, still to this day, because I built a big brand, fitness allows me to open some of those doors, right? Like somebody might hire me or hire my company for fitness, but they'll stay for everything else that they get.
Yeah. Well, it makes so much sense because the problem is not knowledge, right? Like, oh, I want to get skinnier, eat less empty calories, drink more water, sleep better, move my body more. This is not fucking rocket science. And somehow there's, a $1 trillion industry because we're all being fed shit and sitting in front of our computer and having sedentary lifestyles. But, for you, it makes sense to me that you kind of have to hide the medicine in the cheese, where it's like, hey, you're signing up for physical training or fitness coaching or whatever. Oh, but the real problem is you got some life shit going on that doesn't allow you to get out of bed early to go work out. Like, what? Let's unpack that. Oh, hey, why do you need to because we had some conversations about this. It's like, why do you need to numb your mind for 3 hours at night watching TV or zoning out just to go to bed, right? And I'll never forget, you told me something. I was talking about having challenges working out when I travel, blah, 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 blah. And you were like, bro, don't take the workout clothes. Don't take the fucking running shoes. You just told me 30 out of 30 business trips where you took running shoes, you never went on a run. You're setting these weird expectations for yourself. You've got some block around following through those expectations. Just get out of the hotel bed and do like 50 air squats. And like, that will either motivate you to do more or it won't or whatever. And we'll just double down when you get home. And I was like, fuck, dude, this guy's on to something way deeper than just like, you got to get to the gym today. And so it makes sense that like the fitness is kind of the cheese, it's the wrapper, but the medicine is all of the other shit that you're dealing with people.
Yeah, and look at how you completely transform your body. How do you completely transform your body? You did it through jiu-jitsu.
Right.
So like, it was never through like personal training or fitness. It was like, so why on a deeper level do you feel like you're drawn to like jiu-jitsu and fighting?
Oh, I'll tell you right now. Because I will hold myself more accountable to others than I will to myself. And so I know, like, if I don't show up this morning at 6 a.m., one of my training partners, Mike Lady, is going to be shooting me a DM on Instagram. Hey, where are you today, you fat fuck? I had nobody to roll with. And it's weird that we'll show up as human beings more for other people than we will show up for ourselves. Often.
Very often. Almost every single time. Why did you choose jiu-jitsu to show up for that? Why was that the path that you chose?
Because I love fighting. Like I love the alpha male interaction of like fighting.
So there's nothing alpha about running.
Right.
Boom. That's why I'm worth all the money that I'm worth.
Right.
Boom,
there you
baby.
go.
That's just the truth. I just keep it real.
Yeah.
So like identifying. So like if you were to like hire my company today, it's like identifying what does Scott love and really, and it's like maybe your program would never be ever
Yeah.
You at a gym working out and doing cardio. Like that would just never be your program. It's like, you hear this thing all the time about the plumber, right? He shows up, you have all these leaks in your house, been trying to fix it for the last 3 weeks. It's a mess. Plumber shows up, hits 2 things, charges you $20,000. Right. It only took you 2 minutes. Yeah, that's because I'm the plumber. I know exactly where to go. Well, that's what we do. It's like our clients are paying us to, like, the things that kind of seem easy to figure out, but they just don't see it. We highlight on it.
Yeah.
We push on it, and that's what causes the transformations. And our company, I was telling this to somebody else the other day. For as long as we've been around, we don't have one bad review. Like we have raving reviews. And I think it's
and you guys aren't cheap. So if somebody fucked up, like if somebody in your team fucked up or you fucked
expensive.
up, there would definitely be a negative review.
Yeah,
It's not like I was paying $9 a month for Planet Fitness. How am I going to leave them a bad review? It's like
no, they're paying upwards of $2,000 a month, which is like for some people that's a mortgage. That's more than their car payment, right? And we don't have bad reviews, and I think it's because our company's mission is we will do whatever it takes authentically to help you succeed. Period. How could you leave a bad review when everyone is focused on doing whatever it takes authentically to help you succeed? If you don't succeed and you quit, it wasn't because of us.
Right.
We did genuinely everything we could authentically to help you succeed, period. And I think that's why we have the success that we have, right? The company, our biggest challenge has never been client acquisition. It still to this day is, and I still haven't figured out. I got to do some more math and kind of work it out, but it's still to this day is just employment.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Los Angeles. Maybe it's so many different things. Maybe it's just the climate of the culture. Who knows? Yeah. That's, I don't know if you deal with employment or anything.
Yeah. I mean, California is a pretty transient area, right? It's like you guys have to work in person for the most part. Like you've probably got highly motivated people. We did an episode. If you can make a note or email me, Chris, to email Michael, the podcast that we did with Isaac Stegman.
Okay.
He talked about finding like top-notch employees. And he talks about this a lot where it's like, it's super hard to find people who are high drive, low ego. And if you ask those questions, they'll find a way to fake it if they want a job. So you got to start asking questions. And he's like, you're not looking for the guy that was the high school quarterback. You're looking for the guy who was the high school kicker or the high school left tackle, because it's like they weren't in the limelight, but they were super important to the success of the team, right? Or you're looking for the people that were, 10 years as somebody's co-captain in a business and they love being like the tinkerer. It's funny. You mentioned Alex Hermosi. I went to their event just because it happened to be here in Vegas.
Right.
What's crazy is like, I went to the event because they were local and they like cold called me. I'm like, yeah, that's a good price for like a 2-day event. There were people that flew in from Dubai. Like, I didn't realize what a big deal Alex Hermosi was.
Huge deal. I love that.
Huge deal. Yeah. But what was funny is that he's definitely the sizzle. I could tell that his wife, who just recently started doing a lot of social media, she's the steak. Like, she's the one who's the world-class co-captain that's held that all together. And like,
one of those.
Yeah, she gave a whole presentation on hiring and retaining people and whatnot. So I don't know how you find them in the fitness industry, because it feels like everybody would kind of be like high drive, high ego. But if you can find some people that are high drive, low ego, those are like your lifelong employees.
So when you think about the challenges that the company has, so like first thing is understanding the data and the numbers, right? I don't find them because what I used to beat myself up about it. So removing like stoic philosophy, right? Control the controllables. So trainers are high drive, high ego.
Yeah. By nature.
So are sales individuals. So if I'm hiring trainers, why would I try to change the nature of the job role? So how do I stimulate the ego and maintain the high drive? So one, promote quickly. So you have quick promotions within the business because they're not going to even last that long, but they know that it's there. So that buys you more time. After 4 years, give away equity. Now they have a vesting period. They have more motivation, but ultimately make it all about them. So our companies, how we recruit talent is the CEO will tell you everything you need to technically become a competitor. Pricing, sales scripts, everything is packaged up beautifully for you. And you can take it and duplicate it and be your own boss. But while you're working for the company, we ask that you don't poach our clients, right? And that while you're here, you give us your A game, even if you only last a month.
It's a pretty good deal.
It's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Because you're coming in and you're learning, you're working with the right clients.
It's like a paid internship.
It's like a paid internship. So that by doing it that way, I've now have seen the next path I want to take for the company after really like starting. I want to license my business, and then
that makes a lot of sense.
Do that model to remove the headache, right? Just license the business and have all these different trainers using the system, right? Kind of like a white label to run their own companies.
Yeah, that's really smart. Yeah. That's really smart because, you know, man, we're gonna keep going back to Alex just because you guys start in the same field, which is fitness. He talked about this of like, yeah, man, he's like, it might have taken me, I think he said in one of his book, like 300 hours to put together this world-class macro spreadsheet with all the diets and what you can eat when you eat out and where you can shop in the grocery store and stuff. He's like, but I've sold that thing fucking 10,000 times. So it's like, yeah, it was a huge investment up front, going to the store, scanning all the stuff and whatnot. He's like, but now it's just something that I can effectively white label and license out to my trainers.
Yeah.
And now they pay a couple $100s a month for a spreadsheet that I built 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's an awesome.
I mean,
awesome
Alex
model.
and Layla are just like, talk about role models, man. They are they're doing it. She's trying to get pregnant now, right? I think I saw a post on Instagram.
Yeah, I don't know.
Living vicariously. She was just like, oh, I'm injecting, trying to get pregnant. And I was like, oh yeah, they should have some kids.
Isn't it weird how we have, I just found out what this word means, parasocial relationship, where it's like, because of podcasting, we know them. They don't even know our name. And we know that she's taking hormones to get pregnant, where it's like, that just kind of rolls off the tongue. Like, oh yeah, this girl Layla.
No, but even how we talk about them, like Layla, like
like we're buddies, like we're hanging out.
I've never met them. You went to one event.
Yeah, I went to one event. They wouldn't know me from Adam. I mean, it's so weird how it's like, I saw.
I love that.
Where was I? I was in Austin the same weekend that they were doing a UFC fight, and Daniel Cormier had just been on Joe Rogan's podcast, so they went to lunch at Terry Black's barbecue. I happened to be there, and I was respectful. I waited till they were done with their meal and everything, and then my buddy and I walked up and we're like, "Hey, Daniel, huge fan. Loved you when you were wrestling. Loved you in the UFC. Love you even more as a commentator." And it's like, I know I've been following this guy since high school wrestling or since college wrestling. He doesn't know me from, I look like every other chubby white guy that comes up to him like, can I get a selfie with you? But it's like, I feel like I know
my whole life.
I know everything about this guy for the last 10, 12 years. It's a really weird dynamic.
It's super weird.
Because you figure you're like, Hollywood used to be curated, right? Like, who's the guy, Chris? Not Cary Grant, but somebody else who was like this huge ladies man. Turns out he was gay, and his fake wife lived in the pool house, and he was just,
what?
Yeah, oh yeah. Chris, you got to look this up. He lived in Los Feliz. It wasn't Cary Grant. It was somebody else, famous, like heartthrob. Hollywood had completely like created his persona. He even had a wife who the studio provided. And the only reason I knew this is because
so Hollywood curated all of it.
All of it. Like they made him a fake wife and
Tom
everything.
Cruise?
No. Oh, see, now we're gonna get kicked off the internet. Thanks.
Bro, I almost believed him. I was like, Tom Cruise.
No. This is back in like the 50s, 60s.
Okay.
And sure enough, when I was doing a lot of real estate in Los Feliz, we toured his old house, and underground, like a little mother-in-law suite, was the pool house where he used to keep his wife when he was having these massive gay orgies in the upstairs, just going wild.
Insane.
Rock Hudson?
Thank you. Yeah,
I don't even know who that is.
All right, he was like Burt Reynolds, like a man amongst men. And yeah, it turns out he was gay, but it was all curated. And now because of podcasts and stuff, we just feel like we know everything about everyone.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty wild.
It's insane. And I don't even know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, to be honest.
That's interesting.
What do you think? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Just like simplify it. Is it good or bad?
I would say it's interesting. I would say for my business, like for my mortgage business, being more authentic and more out there has been a huge net negative. Like I know that there's realtors that don't work with me because of my political views.
Same for me.
I know for certain, if there's a loan officer who's super quiet and hides their whole personal life and a realtor can't get in touch with them, they're just like, they kind of just like, I don't know, they slough it off. If a realtor's trying to get in touch with me and I'm not available, they're like, oh, that's because he's doing that fucking podcast or he's doing some coaching thing or he's at some jujitsu retreat. And it's like, well, I'm allowed to have a life too.
Right.
I put in 50, 60 hours a week as a loan officer.
Right.
Just because I happen not to be available on a Thursday night at 8 o'clock. What do you care whether I'm doing a podcast or I have my phone off and I'm watching reruns of The Walking Dead? But in their mind, because it's all out there publicly, they can make up whatever story they want about, oh, I don't care about their clients. He's more interested having a cigar and talking about libertarian stuff. So fuck that guy. I'm going to use somebody else. So I know it's been a net negative for my business.
For me as well.
Never been happier personally. So fuck
Facts. Exactly.
Right?
Done.
It's like,
so it's a net negative, right? It is, because ultimately And I struggled with that for a long time. And I still, to some degree, control the narrative. So I'm not even all the way in there, right? I haven't really like come to be my authentic self. But like, what is this fitness guy doing smoking a cigar?
Right.
What is this, CEO doing on a podcast? Whatever, his company's being run. Like, what is he doing in Mexico? Like, all these different things.
Right.
They become a net negative, right? For your clients, for your team members, for your coworkers. But ultimately, what are they doing with their time? Like, they're just watching TV. They're like, everyone's just doing their own. Everyone has their own work-life balance. Everyone has their own free time. We just choose to do things that we find productive and we film it.
Right.
Or we put it out there, right? Whether you go jiu-jitsu, I go play golf, or I'm at the pool smoking a cigar. We're like documenting our life. So this guy who's worth a lot of money, who I admire, Christian Guzman. So I'll give him the accolades, because if anyone in the fitness industry know who he is, he's probably worth
buku bucks.
More or the same as Alex Hermoso. He kind of give you some context, right? It's a pretty big deal. He said something to me. He was like, he was doing a YouTube video because he put himself, like, he built his whole entire business off of like his brand and being out there, like promoting, saying everything for like the last decade plus. And he said, like, I don't care if my employee thinks I'm working hard or not. I know I'm working hard. Like I don't care. Like, he was like, when I was younger, I had to be in the office, or I had to be like proving that I was also working. It's like,
right.
I built this.
Right.
I know I'm working. I know I'm working hard on what needs to be worked on. I know I'm doing what is required for this to succeed and for this to grow and scale and for our mission and our vision. Yeah. So it's like, the realtors out there who might not want to work with you or so forth, like, oh, he doesn't care about his client. You care about your clients.
Right.
You're working hard. You know that you will, anybody who hires you or works with you, you know that you will go above and beyond for them, your company, your brand, like whatever. Like, you know that about yourself. So what you do with your free time and what people have to say about it, like, honestly, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. So I agree with you.
You know where I do need to get better, though, and my wife criticizes me about this sometimes, like in a tactful way, because we have a great relationship. But I'll use a trivial example, and then I'll use where this hurts me in business. So the trivial example is like, we go out to dinner. Like, I value being valued. That's like one of my personality traits. And so it's like, I'll pick up dinner because that makes me feel good about myself, makes me feel like a big deal, like a big shot, like I can pay for dinner for everybody or whatever. And my wife always says she's happy for me to do that. She knows that like fills me up. But she's like, hun, just stop for 30 seconds and tell the people at the table, like, hey man, I want to pick up dinner because I love and value you guys, blah, 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 blah. This is why I'm doing it. And hey, one day, if you can repay the favor by referring me a loan client or whatever or whatnot, she's like, you're just such a giver and you're never really like strategic about it, right? So part of like not explaining why I do things or why things come easy to me, it shows up in this role, like not a big deal, right? But where it does fuck me up in business is sometimes because of 25 years of experience, I'll fix a major problem for a client. Had one happen today. I mean, I've been working with this client for 9 months to get him to a house. They're a brand new dentist with a brand new practice. So I had to explain to them how the taxes need to be handled in order to qualify. There was no way, no shape, no how they were going to buy a house over $1.5 million. They're under contract at $1.9 million. I was able to talk to them about how all that works. What does the financial future look like? But the stuff that comes easy to me after 25 years, it just seems like no big deal. Like anybody can do it. And I don't slow down to explain to them like all the specialized knowledge I have. So guess what? 2 weeks under contract, when some other loan officer comes along and says, hey, Scott's at 7.25%, I can get you 7%. They're like, oh, it was so easy with Scott. I imagine it's going to be just as easy with this guy. We'll just ditch Scott and go with this guy. And it's like, no. You don't understand all the fucked up shit that happened behind the scenes and all the specialized knowledge that all of a sudden that loan officer who's like a cut rate salesman because he's only been doing this for 2 years, he's going to fuck up your loan. And then when you come back to me in 3 weeks, I ain't going to be happy. You ain't going to be happy. I'm probably going to have to give you a worse rate. So it's like, I've got to find a way to articulate, hey, there's 25 years of experience involved that makes this look easy. It's not easy. And I don't know how to do that without being a pompous asshole.
So first of all, start with changing your verbiage to, I'm going to start learning how to do that. And you need to learn how to do that.
It's true.
You need, I will tell you one thing. I'm working actively on doing that. You need to explain why for everything. We are constantly reminding every single one of our clients. We have 76 active subscribers. Every single one of our subscribers, we're constantly reminding them everything we do for them, why we do it. We're constantly tracking their progress, their results for them. Like, you need to, whether it's your team, whether it's your relationship, always explain why. Because we do it intuitively. we see things that they don't. Explain your moves like if they were 3 years old to everyone. Like constantly explain your moves that are organic, authentic to you, that you could do it in your sleep, but not everyone can. And the more you explain why you're doing everything, how you do everything, how, like, even like, you know, I'll give you an example. Like, you invited me on this podcast, right? And if you would explain to me, like, you know, Michael, I invited you on this podcast, and here's the things that I did behind the scenes to even have you show up to this podcast. How I come here increases value.
Right.
Like, to you right off the back. Like, you put so much effort behind the scenes to make this podcast right now a reality.
Right.
But if you don't tell anybody about it, then it's just like another, like, you gotta, like, the more you explain the why, the better.
Yeah. That's another perfect example, because frankly, we've had some people on the podcast, which again, you know, this all comes out of my pocket. Like, we're not monetized or anything. I do it as a passion project because I learn a lot by talking to people like you. But, you know, you got a $15,000 studio, and I've got a $30 an hour employee who edits everything. And then we bring somebody on and they're able to share that stuff with their audience. And I'm like, hey man, can you just share on social media and tag me? And it's like, it kind of falls on deaf ears. But again, it's because I didn't explain all the stuff that goes behind the scenes of like, hey man, do you know how much it costs to have an editor do all this stuff, make it look clean on YouTube, make it look clean on Instagram?
To have you come here.
Yeah. And then, you know, even if it wasn't money, it's like, well, this is 2 hours. I'm not watching movies with the kids, or, you know, fucking my wife or whatever, you know?
Anything.
It's like, I mean, you're looking pretty good, but not as good as my wife.
Yeah, fair. It's okay. What is it with Scott and the underground?
Yeah. Underground
like
movement.
The fifth comment today.
A lot of time in the military. A lot of time with just dudes. And then
Scott was like 5 deep in. He's like, yo, this is a celebrity, gay, buddy, gay.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I think it's jujitsu, man. It's like, it's so awkward when like every day the thing you're looking most forward to is going
like
and
getting grappled,
rolling around with like other sweaty dudes and having balls in your face.
Where's the pool house? Where's the pool house? Where's the pool house? Now I know why he's building all that thing back over there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm building it for the fake wife. But no, I think to feel secure in your masculinity, all the jiu-jitsu guys have to make gay jokes, because if not, like if you walked into a jiu-jitsu studio with no context, you would be like, what kind of weird orgy? Why are these guys 69ing each other? Like, this is...
And it feels like for like 5 minutes straight down there.
Oh, dude, like 2 hours every day. I'm just rolling around. It's like, I know exactly how big Mike's yin yang is at jiu-jitsu, because it's like, I run into it every day.
That's fair.
So yeah, I think
you hit the nail on the head though. That's something you should continue to work on. It will, you know, because you operate at a huge level, right? And you've been doing it for a long time, so you have so much experience. So you're doing things almost kind of like on autopilot.
Yeah, totally.
That people take for granted, just because you're not like out, and you have to find a way to outline it in a way. They call it like constantly onboarding your client, right? You're constantly onboarding your client. So I actually took that from Layla Hermosi. Let me give her the credit. She said that, and I'm just copying and pasting it. Sounding really smart here.
Chris, this last like 7 or 8 minute segment, we're going to need to cut this out into chunks so I can send it to our coaching clients. Because this idea of like everything you just said, like explain the how, the why, the how much. Explain your moves like you're talking to a 3-year-old so that they know what you're worth. Constantly onboarding your client. Like, this is good. See, this is why I had you on, man. This is good stuff.
Appreciate you.
I knew you were smarter than you look. Oh, shit.
All right, fair enough.
So real quick, one of the things that I love about you, and you know, you alluded to the fact that maybe there's some trainer out there that, you know, knows better physiology and can compound movement, blah, 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 or can build better diet plans. But I think one of your secrets is you are like insanely disciplined. And I remember I'd be at Equinox once in a while and I would see a fat trainer. And I'm like, dude, even if that person is the world's best trainer, I can't trust them because they don't have the discipline for what they're putting in their mouth. How are they going to give me the discipline for like my nutrition and my fitness, et cetera, et cetera? So I want to hear all about your journey because you did a couple physique. I don't know if it was bodybuilding. You got your pro card, right?
I got my pro card in 20.
Congratulations, man. I know from a couple of my buddies, that's not easy. Pro card in bodybuilding is you have to finish like first or second in a major tournament or something?
I won first.
Of course you won first, yeah. Natural show. So explain people.
Not national show, national show.
National show.
You have to win a national show, and that's how you get your pro card.
Holy shit.
You have to compete regionally, qualify for national, compete nationally, then you get pro card. Then you can go ahead and compete in the pro leagues.
So
that's how it works.
Walk us through, like, you were already in good shape, but I saw some of those stage pictures and I was like, Jesus, bro.
Yeah.
Walk us through how long does that take? What is the methodology? Like, are you allowed to eat one carb at all? Like what does it look like from when you decided, hey, I'm going to do this and I want to have, I want to be the poster child for my own business.
Yeah.
From there to getting your pro card, walk me through what that series of events looks like.
So I got my pro card when I did CEO Physique season 1. Right. And I got a cameo shout out by Jay Cutler. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Not Jay Cutler, the quarterback, Jay Cutler, the giant bodybuilder, right? Who's just a scary, huge human being, right?
But super smart business guy too.
Yeah.
Genius. That was really cool. So basically in 2021, I was like not really working out the way I should be working out. And I was blaming it on business. I was living in Vegas and flying to LA like 2-3 times a week. Right at the time with Jet Suite, the semi-private airline.
Yeah,
I was like on that plane like every other day, and I had my Smart Vending Machine business, had Per Fitness. I do also like the life coaching was like kind of growing on the side, and I was just like, oh, I'm not in great shape. I don't really care to work out. I'm running all these businesses, and then one day it just like dawned on me, like this is why people hire you. Like you're the guy, right? I mean, when I say now, I've never been fat. Like I had a nice body, but it not compared to what I was used to having, right? So I was like, well, you're the guy that the CEOs hire when they're also traveling to New York, LA, they're on a plane, helicopter, business dinner, and they hire you to get them in great shape. And that's what you're good at. And I was like, it was almost like an identity crisis for me where I had to like kind of realize again, okay, this is what I'm good at. This is what I do. And I gotta walk the walk, right? So CEO Physique season 1, which was in 2021, that originated with me basically realizing like I need to also be in great shape because this is what my business does. And I set out for that mission. And I'm a pretty extreme person, right? Like today, I've only eaten 3 whole eggs and 1 banana, right? So I'm an extremist. I'm an extremist on both ends. When I'm not in prep mode, I'm like all work. I wake up in the morning, grab an energy drink and sit on my laptop and I can just work for 12 hours. Like no food, no nothing. Like I just do things at an extreme level. So whenever I flip that switch, right, for like bodybuilding or competing, it's the same kind of like mentality. Why I'm documenting all of it, Scott, is because as I've added more responsibilities, right? So first was like, can you do it with the business? And then I did season 2. So season 1 was in 21. And season 2 failed. Because season 2, I was like, okay, can I do it out of Los Angeles while living in Vegas? So can I like get in great shape, compete in Los Angeles, do all of it in Los Angeles, but like home base in Vegas? And that failed miserably. Like it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be, because when I was in LA, I was like out of hotels. I was like Ubering everywhere, operating the business. So that season failed.
Right.
Then I did season 3 when I came back from Mexico, and that was like the comeback season, which was like, again, in Mexico, I was like retired. I wasn't competing. I wasn't doing any of that.
Having a few drinks.
I was having whiskey every night with a cigar. Yeah. It was kind of so I'm like I was at my semi-retirement stage. So season 3 was all about the comeback, where I did it again, and that's one that the most recent photos you see on my social media and everything. Yeah, that was season 3. Now season 4.
I mean, in those pictures, and we'll throw Chris, if you can throw a couple pictures up on Instagram of like your recent show. Are you at like 5% body fat, 6% body fat or something?
I would say like 5. Yeah, I would say like 5, 6.
Like you can only be at that for a short time, right? Like isn't that
weeks,
at some point that's like unhealthy, right?
It is unhealthy.
Yeah,
it is unhealthy.
I mean, you look great, but fuck, dude, you can't maintain that, right?
Can't maintain that, no.
Oh, okay.
You can't maintain that. I mean, some guys out there really push the envelope. They're like on heavy gear.
Yeah,
right? And that really pushes the envelope. Now I take TRT. I've taken some other substances, right, and supplements, I guess per se. That
are you big on peptides, by the way?
I've done peptides before. I'm not a huge peptide guy.
Okay.
Right, but they're great. I think peptides are a lot of our clients are on peptides, right? I think peptides are phenomenal for like all the anti-aging benefits, and like even if you want to get like more of a tan, you can take peptides for like to make your skin darker, right? It's peptides for everything, basically, sex drive and all these different things. But no, I take the same supplements every single show. So it's testosterone, masterone, right? Clenbuterol, and T3. That's all I take, right? And my TRT dose starts out at 200, which is basically a TRT dose, and then I get it as high as 500.
Is that a day or a week or
500 a week.
500 a week?
No, not a day. No.
Okay.
No, I keep my stuff pretty low.
Yeah.
And that just works really well for me, right? I don't get any of the like acne or any of the side effects. I feel good. Sex drive is good because that's important to me and so forth. But I've always taken that same stack and that's what I've always done. Every single show that I've done, I've taken that stack. But yeah, so I basically go every no, you know what? Every prep is different. I don't have a formula that I can say it's always the same because it's always different. Every prep that I do is different.
Is it like 6 months, 3 months?
It's usually like 16 to 12 weeks.
Okay.
16 to 12 weeks. Sometimes I'll start like 20 weeks out. It's the same strategy that I use for like our clients. Like we have the acclimation phase, transformation phase, celebration phase, and maintenance phase. Celebration phase and maintenance phase. So like the acclimation phase, I usually like to dedicate like the first 4 or 5 weeks to like just getting out of the extreme other habits, right?
Yeah.
Which is like get back in the gym, get back on the diet, get back on the nutrition, start drinking more water, right? And then the second phase of that is like when I go all in on the training. I'm training out like 6 days a week, doing cardio every day, taking the stronger supplements. At that point, I've already acclimated, so I already have the water and the nutrition is already kind of like ironed out. And then from there, then I do the show, I celebrate. Right, usually I celebrate with like a vacation or something like that, and then I go into like a maintenance phase, and then I just repeat that cycle all over again.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And is it like when you're going through this phase, because you're a pretty big dude at this point, are you trying to, like during this 20 weeks, are you trying to get bigger, or is it more of a sculpting thing, or is it more of a like, hey, like the statue of David, you're just trying to chisel away all the fat, or like what's happening during that stage? Like if you and I were to go to the gym, would I be like mesmerized at how much weight you're putting up, or are you doing like 20 pounds 700 times because you're trying to like lean out? Like what is the methodology?
So first of all, that really depends on your genetic structure, right? Like so depending on how your muscles respond. Like for me, I grow into a show, right? Meaning that when I start taking like when I'm not competing, I'm not taking those supplements. When I start taking the supplements, naturally my body's receptive and starts building muscle. And I like to train when I go in the gym. I've always liked high volume training. There's a famous bodybuilder, if you want to pull up, Kevin Levrone. You might have heard of his name maybe at some point if you're in the bodybuilder community. But he was really well known he was a musician, right? He would like take 6 to 8 months off and like completely just like become like a regular guy. And then he would get ready for the Mr. Olympia. He would just like become like Jay Cutler.
What?
And he had a beautiful physique. We have actually very similar look.
How is that even possible that you could just like balloon up and look like a normal dude?
That's genetics. So I have similar genetics. Like these extreme transformations that you've witnessed some of them close hand. It's like I start touching the weights and like getting serious, and in 3 months they're like, holy shit, dude, what did you do? Like my body changes that fast. So it's kind of like, I think that comes to some degree. It's not formula or secret sauce. It's just like how your body responds to build the muscle. Just like there's some guys out there who like touch the weights and just have a really hard time building muscle. They work out every single day, but they're just like, they're ripped, but they're like skinny. And they might even be on gear and they're eating a lot of food, but they're just not building muscle, right? Like this is like, so this is how your body's receptive to the muscle.
That's wild. And then like, obviously it's all discipline, but when does it get hard? Like when are you starving yourself, taking all the water out of your body? Like when does it get like, oh, this is brutal?
The last 4 weeks, kind of like a fighter.
Yeah.
Like the last 4 weeks when you have to make weight, it gets harder, but it's also when you're the most like tapped in. It's like it gets hard at the time where you can handle the hard. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. That's the human.
You're so close to the show at that point, and you already look insane, right? You already look insane. Your body looks insane. You're in the gym. You see all the veins. You see all the abs. You see everything, like all the detail. And then it's hard, but like every day you wake up and you look slightly better, like that just keeps propelling you forward to all the way to the finish line.
Yeah.
So that would say that it's harder, but it's also like the best part. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Maybe
and then
for people like me, maybe.
My understanding is the day of the show, like this is my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, your body's kind of wrecked because you have to dehydrate yourself to get the most muscle definition and stuff. Yeah. What does the last couple of days look like? Yeah, so the peak week, I start off with drinking about 4 or 5 gallons of water, right? So 4 or 5 gallons of water Sunday. Wait, a day in a day? You drink 4 gallons of water in a day?
Till it hurts.
I was going to say, isn't that dangerous? Can't you like flush all the electrolytes and everything out of your body?
It's dangerous. You mean you know that. You hit the nail on the head. You're like, hey, it's crazy out here.
Yeah. So are you taking like salt tablets or anything while you're drinking that? Or is it just...
I do aldactone, which is a diuretic. Sometimes it's hit or miss with the aldactone. First of all, let me just say that this is not advice that I give to anyone.
Right. This is not what you're telling your clients. This is bodybuilding
anyone
stuff.
or even bodybuilders out there. Like, I am not giving you bodybuilding advice.
Yeah.
You consult. You do your coaches or wherever you're talking.
Yeah. Talk to your doctor.
Right. Talk to someone, but not me.
Right.
I'm just talking about me, right?
Yeah.
So, and again,
so 4 gallons of water.
I start with 4 gallons of water. So it's the most beautiful thing because you learn so much about like the human mind, right? So you're drinking so much water, you hate water. That's on Sunday. By Thursday, all you're thinking about is drinking water.
But you can't have any, right? Because you got to dehydrate your whole body.
But isn't that crazy? In 4 days, you went from despising water to all you think about is water. It's crazy how fickle and delicate the human mind is, right? Like, we're not as smart as we think we are as human beings.
I think it just shows how crazy committed you are. Because like so the reason I ask about the peptides is about 8 or 9 months ago, I'm doing jujitsu and I just kind of stepped weird and slipped and snapped my hand, or not snapped my hamstring. It didn't completely tear, but it was a loud pop and it was bad. And I'm like, I was like right at the level where I'm about to get my purple belt. I'm feeling good. I feel like I'm in a growth expansion stage. And I'm like, I cannot be off the mats. And I just happened to go to a gym with a bunch of UFC fighters. So I hit them all up and I was like, hey, dude, what is the bro science to like fix this faster? And they're like, all right, here's what you got to order. You got to get BPC 157, TB 500. You got to drink. They gave me this gallon a day of like magnesium and all these electrolytes to like replenish the muscles faster. I was back on the mats in a month, which is like unheard of, right?
Peptides are insane for that.
But drinking a gallon of water a day, I wanted to kill myself. Really? I was like, this is miserable. I can't drink this much water I drank a gallon of water a day for 30 days and it was miserable. I hated it. I hated water. Yeah. And so I can't imagine trying to chug 4 gallons in one day. Yeah. That's where I would have given up, by the way. That's where I would have said, fuck this. Forget my pro card.
Unless you were going to lay on the floor as a man and do
do some squeezing.
That's what you love.
That's true. All right. So
what man would you want to lay on the floor with?
Mike Lady, my buddy Mike.
So if I say drink 4 gallons of water and you can lay down with him, will you do it?
only Mike.
But you see, you would do it though, right?
Yeah, I gotta train.
You see how you find the motivation, right? So for me, I do it now for the discipline. Like, so I've had a lot of success with the CEO of Physique, where people really gravitated towards like, oh, you're doing this really difficult thing,
right?
While like operating a business.
You're walking the walk.
You're doing this really difficult thing while you're traveling from like all these different states. Oh, you're doing this really difficult thing while you're going through all these things in your life. Oh, you're doing this really difficult thing while you're being a stepdad at operating a business. Like right now, I'm sure your house has a whole bunch of snacks.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
How do you not eat them?
Dude, I gotta tell you, kudos to my wife. And this was a 9-year evolution.
I hope my girl's listening to this.
Yeah, no, this is a 9-year evolution because my wife comes from a very traditional Hispanic family. There's Coke in the fridge. There's sweet bread on the table at all times.
My girl saying
you have carbs with every meal, and then you have fruit with every meal, and then you have the dessert with every. So it's like a cereal for breakfast every day. And I'm like, honey, like the cereal you're eating plus the sugary milk, you might as well just have a Dr. Pepper for breakfast. Like, and I have real self-control, willpower issues. So it's been an evolution.
Me too.
Yeah. So if you went in our house right now, there's like meat, vegetables, some grapes, and our pantry, luckily for our kids, is all healthy snacks like Cliff Bars.
Genius.
You know what we found? Because this kind of like in an awkward way, they're young enough where I can get away with like gamifying this because they don't play real video games. There's this app called Yucca, Yuka, and the app is a little carrot. And you can scan anything with a barcode and it will give you a rating 1 out of 100. It'll give you a color code of like red, orange, yellow, green. And then it tells you this has too much sugar. This is made with all these carcinogens, stuff. So now the kids like proud daddy moment. They're kids. They want sugar, right?
Right.
We were at Starbucks and they wanted to get something. And my son was like, oh, wait, let me scan it with the app to see if it's good for me. And he scanned it and he's like, oh, no, that's a red, Dad. We got to put that back. What do you think I can get here that's good?
That.
Like, fuck yeah. I'm like, this is like generational change.
That's generational change.
Everybody in my family's fat. Everybody. And
that's
so,
huge, man.
Yucca, you might want to start playing with that.
And it starts in the household.
Oh yeah, everything starts in the household, right?
Everything.
But credit to my wife because she's really come along. Because if I not like I control her, but if we had not been having these conversations over the last few years, there would be sweet bread at every meal and
I'm
sugar
working
and all
on
that
those.
stuff.
I'm working on those because for me, so it's interesting because you talk about discipline and you talk about, how do I do these things? Was like what I'm learning as I'm like adding more to my table, right? Is I just didn't buy that stuff. Like I don't.
Right.
Number one, I hate buying groceries. So I had a chef. I had a chef back in Vegas. She used to buy all the groceries, and she bought what I told her. She was my employee.
Right.
And before that, I had my ex fiance, and we ran a fitness company together. We competed together, so we just really only on it's like a cheat day or a cheat meal. So it wasn't in the house. But with my new relationship, she was a chef, so she cooks amazing food. And now with the 3 kids, like she has like all type of stuff in the house, right? Dude. I don't have the discipline. If I see some cookies out on the island,
I'm gonna eat them.
I'm gonna eat a damn cookie. I was just telling Rob, I was like, man, this is gonna be damn hard. And then she reminded me, she was like, it's meant to be hard. That's the whole point of CEO Physique. And I'm like, just stop buying the cookies and stuff. And she's like, but the kids need it. And I'm like, I'm gonna soundbite this part of the episode and be like, look,
Perfect. Yeah, you know what's, and maybe this is the same thing with your girl is like my wife has really good self-control where she can eat Oreo and then be good.
Same thing with
her.
her.
I'm like, dude, I eat Oreos by the row. When I quantify how many Oreos I ate, I quantify by rows. Like, I did good tonight. I only ate 2 rows. I didn't eat the whole package. I'm like, you can't have Oreos in the house, or I'm gonna eat rows at a time. I'll eat so many Oreos to the point where I'm like questioning if I deserve to be alive as a man. I'll be like, I have no self-control. I'm a gluttonous piece of shit. You know what I should do though right now? I should drive to Target and get some more double stuffed Oreos.
Oh, you like the double stuffed ones too?
Oh yeah, of course.
I love the double stuffed ones too.
Bro, when my wife and I can't believe my wife married me after this. When we started dating, we were going to go on some little beach trip or something. So we went to Target for the first time to go shopping together. And right when you walk in, there was like an end cap of double stuffed Oreos. So I grabbed them, right? And like, as we're walking through Target, I'm just like opening because it has a little peel pack and I'm grabbing an Oreo, right? We get to the checkout line. All of them are gone. Like the lady grabs the cart and she's like, oh, I think mice or something must have got into this. Do you want me to have somebody go? I'm like, no. I got to pay for that. I ate them all. I ate them all when we were shopping. And she looked at me.
I would have said, yeah. I'm being real. I would have been like, yeah. I don't know what happened to those. You're right. Wow. That was
weird. When I told her I ate the whole, like the cashier.
Oreo will be fine. The company Oreo will be fine. They're good.
Yeah, no, I have never been looked at with such disdain from this morbidly obese checkout counter lady at Target. It's like she's judging me at such a high level because I ate this whole pack. And it's like, bro, you're not the picture of fitness lady. And when I told her I ate the whole thing as we were walking around shopping, and then she looked at her cart, she looked back at me, and she looked back at the Oreos, and she's just doing this number, and then she's looking at my wife or my girlfriend at the time. I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm being judged by my girlfriend. I'm being judged by this fucking clerk. I'm a piece of shit.
You're judging yourself.
I'm judging myself. It's like, yeah, so all full circle. The Oreos cannot be in the house.
The good thing is that you actually paid for the empty pack, because if you would have gotten a new pack like me, that would have been I would have eaten those in the car. You would have it's for horrible going home. You would have like, I ate 2 packs of Oreos for the price of 1. I got judged by the lady. I lied to her. My girlfriend, I don't know how she feels about me. Man. She thinks I'm this big shot. I can't control myself around Oreos.
Okay. So I want to get back to this fitness competition because it's so fascinating.
How did we get to Oreos?
I don't know. It's so fascinating to me because I'll never compete in one. So like, you show up that day. I've never been to one. What is a bodybuilding competition? Like, I mean, I've seen the TV shows, or I've seen it on TV, or I've seen the Arnold Classic, but like, what are they do? What are you doing? What are they judging? What is a pose? Like, people are like, oh, dude, I was posing and I was so shredded and I was so dehydrated, I was going to pass out. I'm like, you were passing out from standing there? Yeah. Like, I don't get it.
So, it's one, as you get closer to the show, you tap into that kind of like mindset. Because like right now, I'm like, ugh, right? Like who does that? But then you're like, then you see me on Instagram. So what happens?
Yeah, you look at the Hulk. You're all just
it's like you go from like, you do a podcast, I think I'm like 13, 14 weeks out. I'm actually going to compete again. You should have me come back on here like a few weeks before the show to see the difference.
Dude, you're gonna be so angry.
But
You're gonna be like, I can't drink water.
I'll be like, bro, look at my muscles.
We'll just do the show shirtless, right? You can just be all like, yeah.
But no, so you go on stage and they judge muscular development.
Okay.
Right. So like, how big is the bicep? How developed is it? Right. Because you can see a guy with big arms, but there's like no development. You know what I mean? Like development. And they're judging body fat percentage, right, to make sure that you can see all the lines in the muscle, the abs, the triceps, striations, all that good stuff. They don't really judge posing, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
You just want to pose well. You want to pose in a way that highlights your muscle insertions, right? Like, so for me, I know I have a really nice abs. So like I'm posing in a way that highlights my abs. Whereas like if I was a guy who didn't have great abs, only had like kind of like a 4-pack, or my abs were kind of like unaligned, I would pose to highlight my strong body parts, whatever they might be.
Yeah,
right?
shoulders or back or whatever.
Like that. So you're posing to like show your best body on stage, right?
Is there like a weight limit or?
There's a weight limit in certain categories, and there's also mandatory poses. So it's like to prevent someone from, like just going up there and completely freestyling and only showing their arms, right? They put you through these mandatory poses that kind of like highlight all your weaknesses, and that's what makes it a competition.
Got it.
Like, because we all have to do the same poses, so now you can't really hide your weak points. The judge will see who's the better body all around.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what makes it a competition, basically.
Yeah. So you get up there naked and have a bunch of guys judge your body.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu no longer sounds like the gayest sport.
Well,
in
just
this
so
room.
you know, there's actually women judges too.
Okay.
And we're not grabbing each other.
Okay. Fair. You're just lotioning each other up before you go on.
Women do that for you.
Oh, okay.
The funny part though is, the tanning that you get is like super cold. It's like cold plunging cold, right?
The
spray tan.
Oh yeah, because your muscles look bigger if you're tan, right?
Yeah, and they oil you up. But when they do that, you're like super depleted, dehydrated. You're like butt naked in the back of the stage, getting tanned up by women.
That's kind of weird.
Very weird.
Very vulnerable.
Very vulnerable.
You're just like shriveled and dehydrated and freezing.
Yeah. Shriveled, dehydrated, and freezing, getting tanned up. But and then there's also like
you're like, hey bro, can you pass me the grease?
Yeah.
Pass me the grease.
And and there's a woman like lathering you. I think they're used to it though. So they know.
Yeah, it's a job.
It's a job, right? It's definitely if it's your first time, be prepared for something like that.
Yeah, I will never need to be prepared for that. But what's your weight class or what?
I compete at 185.
Okay.
That's like the highest I could be.
Damn, dude, that's so wild. And what is this next competition you're doing?
So I'm shooting CEO Physique season 4. Right, this is like my thing, my passion project. I want to shoot one every year, every other year, and it's a way for me to like, Patrick by David.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Again, another one of those people we know we don't know.
We don't know. Yeah, another parasocial relationship.
Parasocial relationship. So Patrick by David said, you shoot all this content, so your kids know who their great grandfather or grandfather was, right? Like, well, you don't have that luxury. You can't see.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I could see videos of who my grandfather was at 30.
Right.
I'd be like, well, am I like him?
Right.
What was his thought process? So we document things, right? For some people, they document things for like monetary value, right? Or for business exposure. But I document things for my legacy. That's why I can speak authentically. Like I'll say things here that really don't properly benefit me the most for business or for the narrative, right?
Right.
But if my great grand could see this or get the ability to see them, like that's who my great grandfather was.
Yeah.
That's him. That's me, and I want them to feel that authenticity. So with CEO Physique season 4, where I'm doing the show because that's how I opened the door, right? Because people know me as the fitness guy, right? I opened the door with fitness, which is why it's kind of like CEO Physique. But really, it's just documenting where I'm at right now in my life. What are my challenges? What am I really going through? How is it being a stepfather?
Yeah.
Can I get in great shape, while being a stepfather? So I'll be competing again in July. Okay.
Here in Vegas or
in Houston?
Okay.
In Houston, and we'll be documenting it. So he's
wild.
Yeah.
And is this show CEO Physique? Is it going up on YouTube? Or
it goes on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah. The CEO Physique season 1 movie, I think we got like 11,000 views or something.
It's awesome.
It's pretty well. Yeah. But again, like that's not the motive.
Right.
Like interestingly enough, it's not the motive, right? Because there's no. I'm not doing it to that's a bonus that I would be great. I'll be like, oh, great. You know, like when I have my meetings with videographers, or I'm like hiring or recruiting, I'm like, hey, like how well do you know about the algorithm, and like how do you know, it's important. Like,
Right.
if you're gonna do something, you're gonna do it like how we operate as businessmen. We're looking at how can we optimize this, right? But that's not the motive. The motive has always been just to document it.
Yeah.
Passion project, right? Maybe similar to like On the Edge podcast for you.
100%.
A passion project. You enjoy it. I enjoy it. Every year in December, I watch all my videos, kind of like a journal. And I'm like, did I say that? I've seen the podcast that we had before, and I'm like, wow, I've changed so much.
Yeah.
And like things have changed, right? Like,
Yeah.
And like, I'm like, wow, did I say that? Did I believe in those things? I don't believe in those things anymore. So it's like almost like I'm get to see my evolution and my growth through YouTube. And that's why I document it and I do it. So it's on YouTube. Yeah. I'm on season 4.
That's pretty wild, man. I've talked to some people, I think openly on this podcast, about how many technological changes are coming. And so I really believe in the very near future, you know, I've probably got, I don't know, 8 years of coaching videos available, recorded, archived. So that's like 10 minutes a day, at least 2 hours a week. We've now got probably, what are we on, Chris? Like episode 160, something about 160. So we've got 400 or 500 hours of podcasts. I think in the very near future, you're going to be able to take the totality of all of your video content, upload it. And then if I get hit by a bus in 5 years, Gabriel will just be able to go to the Scott Groves programmed AI and be like, Dad, I'm having this problem with a girl. How would you respond? And he'll be able to get Scott Groves' voice, thoughts, coaching mannerisms, and just like there'll be a tool there for the rest of like generations to be like, well, I kind of want to get Grandpa's opinion on this, but Grandpa's dead. And they'll just be able to ask a question, and it'll be like the Scott Groves Chat GPT. And I think that's coming way sooner than we think.
I agree. I agree. And that maybe ties into that. Say that word again. The people with social media that we know. So like
Parasocial.
Parasocial.
Yeah.
And that's like a symptom of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like the fact that we know these people, but they don't know us, but we know them because there's enough content of them consistently enough that our brains have identified with, we know these people.
Yeah.
And that's, like, so the more content you produce, someone out there feels that way about you, feels that way about me. Right? Like I know the people out there who think, or I don't want to say think because I don't want to be mean, but people out there who were like, oh, I know Michael. I know they feel like they know me, even though they've never met me, right? So there's different levels to it. And I believe that as technology and content and AI continue to expand and grow, someone out there will be able to just get access to like all my content. I would love to like get every single video that I've ever had. Like I would love, I don't know about how much I would. I'm actually curious how much would you pay for this, but to get someone to get all my video content, like all of it, right? Clean it up and like make it into a movie.
That'd be a lot of work, man.
That'd be a lot of work, a lot of money.
Yeah.
Would you do it?
Yeah, at some point.
Some point. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
That would be so cool. Right? Like think about that. Like, you can sit down like at 80 years old and like and like just like watch like how On the Edge started, or like just every video of family, the kids, and make it into a movie that you could watch.
Yeah.
Because I forget things. My life moves so fast. There's things that I'm like, oh my God, how come that was such an amazing experience I was doing all that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I just felt like 5 years ago. That was like 2 years ago. But I do so much so fast. You kind of like, I feel like my brain is skipping these moments. So like I'm just moving too fast. Do you feel that way sometimes?
Oh, 100%, man. It's like every once in a while, I forget that I was married before. So I was married before for about 2 years to a lovely lady. She's actually a wonderful person. We just didn't need to be married to each other. Like
Jonathan's mom or no?
No. I didn't even know Jonathan was around when I was married to her.
Right, fair enough,
So my ex-wife Yasmin, wonderful person. Like I have nothing but good things to say about her. We just didn't need to be married. And what's crazy is like we had a amazing wedding on Maui. Like 100 of our friends came, and one of my friends is a professional editor. She's edited a ton of TV shows. She made like a 20-minute recap video of that whole week in Maui with like the snorkeling trip we went on and the games we played and it's a beautiful video. She took it down off of YouTube because we got divorced, but somewhere that video exists of like, hey man, even though I'm no longer married and I'm very happily married now to my second wife, that was a part of my life, right? That was a really important part of my life for 5 years. I loved that person enough to get married to her at one point. Again, we ended up not needing to be together. But it's just wild because like that's just a forgotten 5-year segment.
I know.
The meeting, the courting, the dating, the being married, the going through the heartache of divorce, the going to see a therapist because I felt like a total failure that my marriage didn't work. Like that 5 years is a major part of my life that I don't think of for like months on end.
Exactly.
It's wild.
It's wild. And I asked you a question earlier. I don't know if you gave me the answer, but I'll ask it again. Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
That we put that kind of stuff out there.
Well, no, it's a good thing or a bad thing that we forget about our lives, like that we move on. Like, you know, like I feel that way about my ex-fiance as well.
Right.
We had 7 years of experiences together.
Yeah.
That I don't think about.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I'm like, and I'm trying to like put all the increments of all those experiences together. But it's like, if I had a video of it, could I watch it all over again? That'd be great. But it's like, is it a bad thing that we're like so much of our life, like we just like, we're moving so fast sometimes that we on to the next experience, you know, on to the next experience, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there has to be a biological benefit for why we forget, right? Like we had to evolve for some reason to forget. Like maybe I don't know, maybe 100,000 years ago when it's like you wake up and some saber-toothed tiger just eats your brother right in front of you. Like you got to be able to forget about that in a couple months to move on. So there's got to be some biological reason to think to forget about this stuff. But yeah, I don't know if it's good or not. I mean, maybe I'd be a better person. Maybe I'd be a worse person if I could remember all the stupid shit I've done.
You're right. That was deep though. Your answer was perfect, I believe. I think biologically we have to move on. We have to forget these things and kind of move on to like present moment. A little bit of on like some Matrix conspiracy stuff here, right?
Let's go.
Right? Do you believe that all of this is just like in our own mind that we're creating it with like you heard of that?
Dude,
like,
like are we living in a Matrix?
Yeah,
it's all just like we're just players in a video game.
Yeah.
It's possible, right?
Dude, I feel like it is. Sometimes it feels that way. Sometimes
I feel like my player, whoever's playing this avatar, keeps fucking with me. So cut it out and just let me get rich and be happy and do jujitsu 5 hours a day. Like, quit fucking with me, bro. If you're listening right now. Yeah, I don't know, man. I've had some experiences recently, one in particular that really made me think about like, there's got to be a God and like there's got to be a bigger purpose and like I don't know, maybe it's just getting older or maybe it's seeing my kids grow up or whatever. Yeah. But there's been some really profound experiences in the last year where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm definitely not totally in control of what's going on. No, there's a higher power or a God or fate or whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to call it. There's something else going on besides Scott Groves.
Oh, that's facts.
Yeah,
that's for sure. And to even piggyback off of that, it's like if sometimes I'll find myself like staring at something for a long time, and I can see, oh God, this is gonna go a different direction, but I can see like the frequency.
Mushroom hangover, bro.
That's a mushroom hangover. But like, what does that mean?
I don't know.
Like what? like
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like you hear about these things, you're like, but until you experience it, you're like, wait, what? What does that mean? What do mushrooms mean? What do these things mean when they kind of like expand? They say that mushrooms. I haven't done mushrooms by the way, and since before moving to Mexico, so it's been about 2 years, right? But they say that when you do mushrooms or you do stuff like that, you create new neural pathways in the brain. You've heard of that, like the psychedelics and all that stuff. So I wonder, like, well, they say we barely even use our brain,
right?
What's like the actual like percentage of our brain that we use?
Yeah, a couple percent supposedly.
So supposedly, right? So let's just say that like, what does it mean if we were to use more of it? Like, what are we missing? Like, what are like ignorance is bliss. Like, what don't we know? Remember, at one point, we human beings thought a lot of different things that weren't accurate,
right?
That we've had to prove through history. So it's like, where will we be in a couple 100+ years, where they'll be like, oh, like these human beings didn't even realize that this was like a possibility.
Yeah.
Like that's insane to think about, right?
The guy I was having lunch with today, the very wealthy dude I was talking about earlier, he's a venture capitalist. I mean, he puts money to work with tech and biology and healthcare and chip technology.
Dude,
and
this guy's out of Vegas?
Yeah.
Dude, my guy's a venture capitalist too.
Yeah, of course.
What's going on here?
We'll compare notes.
I want to compare the notes
when the camera stops
afterwards.
But he was telling me, he's like, man, if you have ideas for business or growth, or you feel like you're seeing the future, he's like, the pace of change that humans are going through right now with the large language models and AI and all that stuff, he's like, bro, it's coming so fast. And we started getting into a deeper talk about, well, does that mean we're going to have universal basic income because so many people are become unemployed of
We
this?
talked about that. Yeah.
All this kind of stuff.
We didn't talk about that, but I was talking to someone about that as well.
Yeah.
And that's where communism becomes a real conversation.
Yeah.
And now you understand how countries fall into that. So what are your thoughts on that if you want to go into that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like in my mind, just the whole like bootstrap mentality and like taking care of yourself and, free markets and all that stuff at a very basic level, like this idea of universal basic income or entitlements, it all bothers me. It's like, no, go work for what you deserve. And then another part of me is like, holy shit, have we got to this like technological Rubicon that we're about to cross where it's like, yeah, like 80% of the jobs in America won't exist anymore. Like I'm talking to my 22-year-old, one of the conversations we're going to have this weekend in Vegas, Jonathan, when he comes out here in Vegas and then we go to Hawaii, one of the things I'm going to talk to him is like, hey, you kind of love working with your hands. You want to be outdoors and stuff. Is there a trade, plumbing, electrician, blah, 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 that makes sense because they're having such a hard time now. He lives in New York. There's not a plumber in New York that makes less than $150,000 a year.
Yeah, they're doing well.
Because like those jobs work with your hands, those are pretty insulated from like, oh, technology is going to take your job away.
Work on a computer.
Yeah, a computer can't, unplug a toilet just yet. Maybe we're getting there one day. But, we're going to have that conversation because he doesn't really want to work in an office. He works at an oyster hatchery now. He loves working outdoors and
he likes working with his hands.
Like that. Yeah. So it's like, why not do that and make great money?
Yeah. And just, and then also share with Jonathan, like if you do decide to go down that path and you become a technician and you're skillful and you're good at it, really don't get that entrepreneurial crisis that we talk about, right? Where it's like, oh, should I become a business owner? Because that could be, that's a whole different strategy and a whole different business owners have to work with their mind, not with their hands, and you kind of like learn that the hard way.
I think you can do both. He's a good kid. Yeah, man, wild. So besides the fitness competition, what else do you have coming up? You got any trips left are you going back and forth to Mexico, back and forth to LA? Or are you mostly home base in Vegas now?
I'll be in LA next week. Okay. So I'm back and forth from Vegas to LA quite a lot. So something that I did that was different was when I came back into LA, working on building my fifth team and kind of like we talked about that, is I just asked them, I said, listen, how often do you guys need to see me, right? Like how often do you guys need to see me for like the vision, the mission, like the conversations, like the why we're doing what we're doing, the why we're incorporating these softwares, the why we're offboarding that and onboarding this. How often do you guys need to see me in the office, right? And some people said a month. Ultimately, a few people said every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks I show up and I have like what we call a team meeting, team bonding. We go out to dinner, we kind of catch up, and I work with the department heads, and they see me, in person every 2 weeks. Yeah. And whereas before, when I was younger, I was like flying to LA like multiple times a week. Right. I felt like if I wasn't there, they wouldn't think that I was doing my job. And then I went to the complete extreme of that. I moved to Mexico, and they didn't see me at all. Right. So now we found a happy medium. Yeah. I love that you're just like me. You're either all in or all. You're like, I'm here. I'm micromanaging, or I'll see you in 3 months. It's like, wait, what? Right, yeah, basically, you can't do that.
Can't do that. It's tough. Yeah, my wife's probably sick of that too. It's like, she's not like, hey, maybe we'll get some podcasting gear. It's like, oh no, we're spending $20,000 building a studio. We're gonna retrofit this thing. It's a phenomenal studio. I know, but she'd really like if I could start making some money off it. But by the way, one of the reasons I was excited to have you on is because I knew we were going to talk about fitness and we were going to talk about some conspiracy theories. But one of the missions of the podcast this year is like, we're just having more business centric conversations. We're having more real estate finance. So then I can send it out to my realtors and my loan officer clients and all that stuff. And it makes more sense.
Coaching is dude,
I got some nuggets in here that we're going to turn into clips because it's really good stuff.
And another great book that I feel like you could have all business owners read is the book The Motive.
The Motive, I haven't read that.
The Motive. Oh, you got to read that book. Oh, it's a quick read.
Okay.
The Motive. It compares two CEOs. It's a beautiful. I can give you a quick 2-minute speed run on the book. Two competitors, right? Two competitors. So they're in the same industry. Two CEOs, and one of the CEOs like sees the other one as a nemesis, and the other CEO sees the other one as like someone to just collaborate with to go ahead and beat this bigger competitor conglomerate, right? Work together to beat the bigger competitor. That's how the book starts, and they sit down to have lunch and they start kind of like chatting about their businesses. And while they're chatting, one of the CEO realizes this CEO is doing so much better than me with his business. right? He kind of feels like ashamed. He saw him as an enemy and nemesis, but now he's like, oh, this guy's like, he's like lying about his numbers a little bit. The other guy's talking about his numbers, and he feels like, oh my God, he's just doing so much better. And the book starts that way. And the whole concept of the book is like, what is the good CEO doing that the bad CEO isn't? And the book will teach you like the right way to lead and manage your people. So even if you're in the same industry as your competitor, even if you have the same like market share, there's a way for you to do better without a new marketing tactic or without a new acquisition strategy, without a new key hire. Just like by leading and managing your people better, you'll produce a better result than that of your competitor.
Yeah.
So that's another great book, The Motive.
That's awesome, man. What else are you looking forward to this year other than obviously competing and dehydrating yourself again?
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing what Rob creates. Let's go. Okay, yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Rob creates with the CEO Physique season, the docuseries. I'm excited about that. He has some visions, and he's working on a pilot that he's gonna go ahead and like deliver. He wants to use one of the episodes or want to use like kind of the story to pitch a pilot. So who knows if that turns into something bigger, right? I'm also really excited about my relationship, man. I want to have kids.
Yeah.
So like right after this competition, I want potentially. I'll say potentially because
you never know.
You never know, right? I want to get engaged and I want to get married and I want to have kids and I want to have kids of my own because I'm already being a father.
Right.
There's definitely some benefits, to being a father to my own kids.
Right.
So I'm ready for that. I'm ready for kids.
Nice. How old are you? I don't care.
31.
Oh, perfect, dude.
Yeah, 31 years old. I'm ready for kids.
Yeah. You're old enough to know, young enough to keep trying. It's like you still got tons of energy. I'm so glad I waited for my wife and waited for these two perfect kids we have. Sometimes
your son's a badass.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, he's a good-looking kid.
He's a really good kid. And he doesn't, no kid really knows how lucky they are, but it's like we just happen to stumble into a jiu-jitsu gym where like the coach of the evening class who also teaches the kids class, which is like unheard of. He's top 10 in the world at his weight class. And then there's a couple guys in the morning class that think it's a kick that my kid will get up at 5:30 and come to the morning class with the adults. So like there's these black belts that just pour into him. And he loves it because he feels like he's one of the men.
Yeah.
But he in about 10 years, 20 years, he's going to look back and be like, holy shit. I got like this world class, not just education in jiu-jitsu, but just in like being life, a man and being in life and everything. And he, at one point, I hope he rewatches this episode and like, oh yeah, I didn't know how good I had it when I was 8 years old. Because he's just got in sports and in business and some people he meets because of this podcast. He's getting exposed to some world-class human beings, which makes me feel really good about like the job we're doing as parents,
That's and you know what? That could be a great leverage on your wife. Be like, babe, like we get to bring some awesome people to participate on the edge. So like, maybe there might not be any monetary value like that we can like bottom line with these episodes, but not only am I acquiring knowledge or nuggets, or it may be a good way for me to like release and ideas, but like, the ones that take the time to interact with my son, like he's also like seeing young guys, older guys, business women. Yeah. He's like getting exposure to like what helped me become the man I am today was, again, as a trainer, I got to work with some pretty awesome clients.
Right.
I wouldn't be here without any of them.
Yeah. Yeah, because you get to hear their story. Presumably, if they can afford to pay for physical training, they're pretty successful.
Yeah, they have disposable income.
Yeah.
Right. So they're doing well, or they're a business owner. So I learned so much as a young child, the adult, right, from the mentors or the people that I was training became my mentors.
It's wild. You want to know what a badass my wife is? We were not happy with the school choices in Vegas, so she's opening a school.
Oh, that's dude, I love that, bro. Yeah. Totally badass. Give her another shout out. Say that one more time.
Yeah, we're opening a school called Apogee. So we're partnering with Tim Kennedy. Tim Kennedy is this former UFC fighter, Green Beret, just like all around badass dude. And he partnered with this guy, Matt Bedreau, who's a friend of mine that comes from the educational world. He used to work in the admissions department at Stanford. He's very jaded by what public school has become or what it is. And so the two of them teamed up. They kind of like raised the flag and they're like, hey, we want to open 100 schools in the next 2 years. Who's in? And my wife immediately raised her hand. So her and a partner, Andrea, shout out to Andrea, they're opening a whole private school here. Dude, that's going to be.
I want to get the kids in there.
We'll talk about it.
Let's talk about it. Yeah, off the air, because that's, dude. I mean, they're not my, like being a
stepkids. Yeah,
but I'm like, I care, right? And when I think about, especially because I have two girls, right? and with the whole Vegas structure, the public system school, and I just think about the pathway that they're almost like conditioned to walk down. I don't love it.
Yeah.
I don't want to have.
Yeah.
And when I have my kids, I for sure, when I have full control over that decision, like I for sure don't want to have my kids in, because I plan on being in Vegas for quite a while.
Yeah.
Because again, like,
ironically, if you stay off the Strip, it's actually a good place to raise a family.
it's a great place.
There's a ton to do.
Yeah, you
like
just gotta go.
the community that we've
Southern
built.
Highlands.
Yeah.
Southern Highlands. What area is this?
Mission Hills area.
Mission Hill, Southern Highlands, Green Valley.
Yeah.
like,
Summerlin's great.
Summerlin.
Yeah.
Like, the areas that I live in, the areas that you live in, way better. Way better. You don't even feel like you're in Vegas. There's no billboards everywhere. Like,
Right.
Kind of like feel like you're secluded, and I like that a lot. Like,
There's no tigers or slot machines.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Still.
Well, yeah, the gas station's a little weird. That's what I tell people when they're like, "What's
You have
it?"
a Tesla. Have a Tesla. You'll be fine.
Yeah, they're like, "What's it like living in Vegas?" I'm like, "Well, everything's normal. It's like any other suburb, except for when you go into 7-Eleven. Like on Fridays, if the kids have done really well with their school and with jujitsu, they're allowed to like get some sugary treat on Friday. So we go to 7-Eleven, and there's always some crackhead just like banging away on the slot machine.
Dude.
It's like if you're playing slots at 7-Eleven at 2:00 on a weekday, life probably has not gone pretty well for you. And so that's the only weird thing. And my son will come out. He'll be like, "Dad, we shouldn't gamble." And I'm like, "No, you definitely shouldn't gamble."
Do you gamble?
So,
I don't gamble.
no. Once in a while, I'll go play poker down on the Strip.
You know how to play poker?
Yeah, I'm okay at it.
Yeah,
it's for me, it's a couple $1,000s a year of entertainment.
You know what I got into, bro? You got to do this. Pickleball.
Oh, fucking pickleball. Everybody's into pickleball.
Pickleball, bro.
I played it a couple times.
It's amazing. I played with some, hopefully they don't watch it, but some old people.
Yeah.
We have a blast. They're a great way to network with the right demographic, right? Super awesome. Like, it's a great way. It's you don't got to be super competitive in it, but it's still a workout. It's fun.
All right.
Dude, come on, pickleball.
All right, I'll just for you, I'll come play pickleball.
Yeah, will you?
You know what's crazy? Do you know who? This is nuts. One of my buddies, Joe Benavides, there was a time where he was one of the baddest men on the planet. He was a UFC lightweight, amazing fighter. His wife is still a commentator for the UFC. Like, he's fucking rock star at fighting. His favorite thing in the world, pickleball. He's like, I got out of the UFC. I didn't want to go back to jiu-jitsu because I didn't want those competitive juices flowing again. He's like, maybe when we have kids or something, I'll start coaching wrestling. But for now, I want to stay off the mats and just like not try to come out of retirement and get my ass beat or something. So he's all in on pickleball. This guy plays like 4 days a week, couple hours a day. And he's been trying to get me to come out and play. But I'm like,
where does he play?
Somewhere over in like Red Rock area. So maybe we'll get together and we'll do foursome of pickleball.
We should go do it, dude. That would be so fun. I play every Wednesday at the Lifetime. I go to Lifetime.
All right. I always end with two questions, and maybe they've changed since the last time you were on. Number one, favorite movie and why? And maybe this has evolved since the last time I asked you the question. So your favorite movie and why? And then what are you most looking forward to? I think we kind of hit it, but what are you most looking forward to in 2024?
Favorite movie and why? Let me really think about that. Actually, I saw... I knew where to sit because I was watching some of your podcasts. I was like, oh, so the guy sit with the white thing on the back.
Yeah.
Paying attention. And I saw that you were asking that question. I was like, am I going to use the same movie I've always used, or am I going to like put some more thought into it? So I didn't prepare it properly, but I'll put some thought into it now.
Okay.
So favorite movie and why?
And then what are you looking most forward to in 2024 to go into the second half of the year?
So what I'm looking most forward to is, setting the foundation for like my family, right? So that means, if all goes well, getting engaged, solidifying the relationship and start working on getting my blood work and everything kind of like ironed out because of all the supplements and stuff, and start trying to have kids. So like working on, having kids, becoming a family man, like full blown. Like I want to have my own kids. Ideally, I'm okay with 2 more kids. So like 5 kids total. I think it motivates you to work harder, and it's a lot, So I'm not gonna say it's easy because it's definitely a lot, and it's a lot of stress, and I'm going bald, and
it happens.
It happens. So, and favorite movie and why? I don't know if I have a favorite movie, man. I keep going back to the same movie, The Wolf of Wall Street, and I feel like I just always go back to that movie because that movie like got me out of a slump,
Really?
Yeah. It's always been my favorite movie for like a long time because when I think of that movie, I think of like where I was. I was just finished being homeless, and I was like sleeping in front of my old good friend of mine. We're not really good friends anymore, but back then, anyways, I was sleeping in front of his. He had a studio apartment because his girlfriend had just broke up, so he needed help with paying the overhead of the apartment, and I was like sleeping on a flat air mattress right in front of his bed. and we had a little DVD player. We had a little TV. And I had the DVD for The Wolf of Wall Street. I had the DVD. It wasn't even like in streaming back then. It was just a DVD. And I was just like watching the DVD on repeat every single day. And that's how the name Wolf of Fitness came out. So I feel like that movie will always have a spot dear to me because it's like it started. Like I wouldn't be here today as a Wolf of Fitness or Per Fitness or anything that I'm known for if it wasn't for like this movie constantly playing and subliminal messages for like, I also want to be like this guy who was poor. I always say without all the drugs and women and stuff like that.
Right.
But if I'm being completely honest, and I'll give you an inside bite, I lived the Vegas life for a bit where it felt like the Wolf of Fitness / Wolf of Wall Street.
Right.
Like Vegas style.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't come hang out with you. All right, well, no, I love that, dude. And we're not going to wait 4 more years to have you on again. We'll have you on either right before. We should do it right after your fitness so we can show the pictures, the before and after.
I love that, yeah.
You can have a beer. We'll be in celebration mode.
Celebration mode.
I don't want to have you on 2 weeks before when you're ready to rip somebody's head off because you've eaten like one egg in 3 days. I mean, that's true, right? Like you're starting to get to the starve yourself phase.
You starve yourself, yeah.
Oh, fuck that, enjoyable. Dude. Yeah, no, I'll stick with rolling around with half naked man on the ground.
Hey, but that's actually not easy either, man.
Yeah, no, it's not easy, but it's definitely it doesn't take the same level of nutritional discipline, which is my Achilles heels.
Yeah, but don't the fighters actually the real
fighters, they're legit, man.
They have to diet down hardcore. And
they're real into nutrition. But there's this interesting thing, and we'll just close on this because Chris is giving me the hey, we're almost at 2 hours. But it's funny because even the coach of our jiu-jitsu studio, the main one, Casey Hallstatt, he's been around the game forever. He was one of the first guys to help relate jiu-jitsu to MMA fighting. So he's cornered more UFC fighters than he can remember. He even says, he's like, jiu-jitsu is kind of this weird thing where it's just starting to get to a place where people make money. But for the most part, he's like, jiu-jitsu is like what surfing was in the 70s or skateboarding was in the 80s or rock climbing was in the 90s, where basically a bunch of stoners can tell their friends and family, no, man, I'm working on being a world champion in jiu-jitsu. And he's like, bro, you're not taking care of your diet. You're not paying your car insurance. Right. You're not cross-training with weights. Like most of the people, now we have a couple guys at our gym that take this shit deadly serious and they make a living. But a lot of people that say they're professional jiu-jitsu competitors, they're really just stoners that don't want to grow up.
Right.
And this is Casey's words, not mine, because I haven't been around the scene long enough to really have an opinion. But it's interesting because you can start to see the elite athletes, they're pulling away from the crowd because they CrossFit and they're
hyper athletes.
They're hyper athletes. They cut weight for tournaments. They're not just showing up however much they weigh. They're taking care of their diet.
They're on the peptides, they're on the supplements.
Totally, man. Yeah, they're building an Instagram following. They're building a brand. So you can see there's maybe about 50 or 60 competitors that are starting to pull away from the crowd, and they're fucking terrifying.
Yeah,
because they're like former D1 wrestlers who also know how to break your ankle, who also know how to choke you out. There's this guy, Andy Varela. He's the kids coach and also one of the top competitors in the world. And he's terrifying. Yeah. He's 180 pounds. He's actually smaller than me physically, but just yoked.
Insane.
And he's terrifying. Like I wouldn't want to fight him if I had a knife. Yeah. And so those competitors are starting to pull away from the crowd. But yeah, there's still a lot of stoners that are living their surfer dreams in jiu-jitsu.
I feel like we should do these more often, or at least hang out more often, because
for sure
I enjoy talking to you. Like I feel like I want to keep talking, but I'm like, no, we got to wrap it up. I'm like, I have so much more I want to say, but we'll save it for another time.
All right, we'll have you on for another episode, man. Absolutely. Thanks for being on, buddy. Man.